is a strange angle, but I'm trying to mix it up. You know, we all have cabin fever. Why make it worse by having the same background all the time? All right, so Penny's gonna join us for this video. Do you care about overwriting and underwriting? Not at all. Underwriting is essentially when you don't write enough of the story to share everything the reader needs to know. So you leave out crucial details, whether it's with the scene setting or the narration or the dialogue or something to do with the characters or the world, things that you just kind of glaze over during the first draft and you know that you'll come back to it later. Stood in front of I'm gonna put some kind of version of a newspaper clipping, but it's on the moon, so it's got to be a little different, right? Penny, oh my gosh, she's like, I want nothing to do with us. Versus overwriting, which is more about writing too much of the story and including things that the reader just doesn't really need to know. And so just to clarify, like I said in the last 2 videos, every single writer has overwritten things and underwritten things, so you are not alone. It does not make you a bad writer. It is totally normal to do in the first draft. In fact, I don't think there's any helping it because the first draft isn't perfect. So that means that either you're going to write too much of your story or you're going to skip over some things, whether on purpose or accidentally, and then you come back and fix it later in editing. That's why we're here. That's why editing is so important. And again, if you're anything like me, you might even do both of these things on the first draft interchangeably, depending on your mood and how much time you spent on it. I mentioned this in the other video, but in case you haven't seen it yet, I just wanted to say that most often I see overwriters being the ones who have spent more time on a scene, and so they just tended to add more because they've been sitting on it longer. And then underwriters are the fast drafters usually, who are trying to get all the words out as fast as possible, and so sometimes we just glaze over things, and that's okay. As long as you're planning to come back to it later, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. In fact, I think the biggest question that I got asked when I asked people what do they want to know about underwriting and overwriting was, how do I stop doing it? And the truth is that it's kind of like a seesaw. If you stop doing one, you're going to start doing the other. You know what I mean? Like it's a balancing act. So if you are an underwriter and you want to be more of an overwriter, as you start to fill it in, you might start filling in too much. That's just how it is, and vice versa. Like if you write too much and you start trying to just cut things out, you might end up skipping things, and that's okay. I can't overemphasize that enough. Like it's okay. It's not the end of the world to fall into either of these 2 camps because they're both fixable. If you missed the first 2 videos in this little editing series on overwriting and underwriting, I will link the other 2 videos below on words to delete from your novel. That's more detailed, and then overwriting, more big picture, how to recognize which parts of the story that you can delete. But today I want to focus on how to actually spot underwriting and to see the places in your story where the reader needs to know more and how to fill it in. And just FYI, I wish I'd said this in my last video, but sometimes people will intentionally overwrite or intentionally underwrite. So intentionally overwriting could be if you just want to get to know your world more and your characters, and you write random stuff about them just to get to know them, and you know you're not going to use it. You're just overwriting details of your world to get to know it. And intentionally underwriting is something that I do all the time, especially during Camp NaNoWriMo or regular NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, where you only have a set amount of time, a month, to do a certain amount of words, usually 50,000 words. And so you have to be very fast paced. And so instead of letting a scene get me stuck where I just sit there not sure what will happen or not sure of the details of it, I will write a placeholder, something that's like, fill in a character doing X action here later. And I will usually use parentheses or whatever you feel like doing, or you can highlight it, you can put it in a comment, whatever works for you. But the idea is that you're putting a placeholder so you don't forget to come back to it, but you are leaving a gap intentionally. Again, nothing wrong with that. I love doing that because it keeps me in that forward momentum. It keeps me moving forward. Sometimes though, you will find that you need to know what happened in that gap before you can write the next thing. And so you do have to go back, and that's okay too. You can kind of figure out and learn as you go what best works for you. Again, a lot of overwriting and underwriting are a balancing act. So I feel like I'm going to repeat a few things in this video that applied to overwriting that also apply to underwriting, which is that, again, a good story is a lot about balancing the different elements of a story, like narration, scene setting, your character dialogue. And I've got a feeling we've all read stories that are a little bit unbalanced. And whenever, even if it's just like one scene or page, in a book that we're reading, if we get to a page that feels unbalanced, we will often do things like skim it or wish that there was more of something. And so, for example, when you are underwriting, things like dialogue might start to look like just talking heads because all you have are the words, what they're saying. You can't quite picture what's going on around them, how the scenery is affecting their choices and their words. You can't see their inner feelings that the narration would give you, so you only know what they're verbalizing. So just like with overwriting and making sure you don't have too much of anything, with underwriting, you're going to come back through your story and look to see where is there not enough of something. So if you see that there's a lot of dialogue, you might want to fill in some scene setting and some narration. You're going to want to kind of layer it in for that balance that we talked about. And we will do a little episode at the end of this where we write something bad that's underwritten and then we make it better and we kind of flesh it out and fill in all the parts. So that's just one example. But on the flip side, maybe you find that you're reading a scene that's all scene setting and there's no dialogue at all. And I have definitely done this as well, where I underwrite the dialogue and I just kind of forget to include it. And dialogue is really important to getting to know a character. So how do we fix underwriting once we know that we've been doing it, that we've been skipping things? Well, if you have been intentionally skipping things, this is when that actually comes in handy. If you've been putting things in parentheses or highlighting them or putting comments where you're like, I know I need to come back to this, you have instant mile markers. Come back here to this spot, to this spot, to this spot, to this spot, and you can really flip through it quickly, which is one of the reasons that I have started to love underwriting, because it helps me write a very quick, fast draft, get the full story, essence of the full story out there, and then come back to very specific mile markers and fill it in intentionally. But it's not always going to be obvious. And sometimes as you make passes through, you're going to have to look more specifically at that balance of story elements and look at what in the story is missing. It's the opposite of underwriting, where you're looking at what do I have too much of? Now you're asking, what am I missing? What does the reader need to know that's not clear here? And that, I honestly think, is a little bit harder. If you're not doing it intentionally and you're having to actually look for it, that's when it gets a little bit trickier, for me at least. But if you're looking for the balance of story elements, you can take a look at one scene at a time or a chapter at a time, whatever works for you, and ask yourself, is there a good balance of dialogue, narration, and scene setting, just the story elements? Am I getting a full picture, or is it missing dialogue? Or is it missing the scene, which is usually what I'm missing, and I'm also usually missing some dialogue. But some of you might be the opposite of me, and you might be missing the narration. You might have tons of dialogue, but there's not that narration going on that explains how they're feeling and how they're processing things and their reactions and so on. All right, so now it's time to write it badly and make it better. If you missed my last video, you know I did an Instagram poll, actually 3 polls, where I asked for 3 things. I asked for character name plus 1 to 3 important details about them. I asked you guys to give me a character want and then a character need. And I asked you guys to give me a fun setting to put the character in. Just to give you some hilarious examples, here are a bunch of the comments that came in. I had a blast going through these. It was really hard to pick, but for the sake of this video, we are going to do Mavis, who loves reading, wears glasses, and owns a cat. The next step in creating our bad story that we're gonna rewrite is to get a character want and a character need. There were a couple that I really wanted to do, but I don't know if they'll be triggering for anybody. We're gonna go with this one. Wants to own an island, needs to find money for rent first. And last but not least, I asked you guys to give me a fun setting to put the character in, and I think these were my favorites. So this time around, I'm going to pick Colony on the Moon. All right, let's put them all together. We have Mavis, who loves reading, wears glasses, and owns a cat. She wants to own an island, but she needs to find money for rent first, and she lives in a colony on the moon. And so that, I figured like they went together. Like, she's on the moon, she wants to go to an island, she wants to bring her cat there and just read a book there, okay? Okay, so the pressure's on. I'm gonna like write this with you guys watching. Her name, so Mavis, last name in parentheses, because we don't know yet. And we're really underwriting here, so figure out what she looks like. And glasses, we know she's got glasses. Okay, so I'm putting it in parentheses. It's my little way of making placeholders. What was our story? I've already forgotten. Stood in front of the, I'm gonna put some kind of version of a newspaper clipping, but it's on the moon, so it's got to be a little different, right? As the space station spun in orbit around the moon. Oh wait, no, it's a colony. It's a colony on the moon? Is it on the moon? Ah, dang it, it's on the moon. Stood in front of the newspaper clipping, waiting for her ride to the space station that spun in orbit around the moon. Okay, now our story is accurate. Want to have her tell someone she wants to own an island. But Mavis, person, says, you need to find money for rent first. This is terrible. This is so terrible. All right, so we've got our character, her glasses, and her cats. Oh, plus, what about cat's name? Mavis nodded. Cat's name needed to come to the island too. This is seriously really bad. Really bad, really bad, really bad. But it's giving you guys an example. Now we're gonna try to make it better. I'm gonna go ahead and copy this and we're gonna call it bad example, okay? And then I'm gonna paste it and this is going to be better. It's not great, but it's better in theory. Okay, so Mavis, Lamar, I don't know, played with her glasses and tucked a stray strand of blonde hair. I don't know. Mavis feels blonde to me. And like she probably has freckles and like her glasses are like really, really big and thick. That's who I'm picturing. She's kind of cute behind her ear. Okay, so now I filled in this placeholder. It's not great, but it's better. She stood in front of some kind of version of a newspaper clipping. So I'm filling it in. This would be like filling in scene setting and world building. And I know that it's a colony on the moon, so it's not gonna be our kind of a newspaper. So she stood in front of the cellular news. This is terrible. I don't know, somebody might like it. Waiting for her ride to the space station that spun in orbit around the moon. Okay, so she needs a person to come up, right? So technically this would be a new paragraph. I wish I could, there we go, indent it. I'm a stickler about formatting, you guys. Some person comes up. I still need to fill that in later. And he's like, what you doing? What's up? Terrible writing. I just found this island with trees and everything. I can't spell. I really want to buy it, but it costs 10 million space quarters. Okay. Obviously I'm not writing a real story, don't judge me. Okay, all right, okay. And then, but Mavis, the person says, so we now have to think of a name. Is this like a boyfriend or something? She loves reading, so we haven't included that. So let's make it a reading friend. What do they call it? Book club. Friend Mavis, and this is why I have you guys help me. I'm looking at all of the answers in here for a good name. I like Laurel, that's a cute name. Ooh, Nova, that seems like a moon name. Nova came to stand next to her. Again, terrible writing, but we're going with it. What's up? I just found this island with trees and everything. I really want to buy it, but it costs 10 million space quarters. But Mavis, Nova said, getting rid of our parentheses, you need to find money for rent first. Plus, what about cat's name? Ugh, these names. You guys, I don't do well with naming my own characters. I'm changing a name for like the 5th time right before sending to my editor, so. Estelle. I like that. We'll go, I'm pulling again from what you guys give me. You need to find money for rent first. Plus, what about Estelle? Mavis nodded. Her cat, because we want to clarify, Estelle needed to come to the island too. Okay, you guys ready for this? So here's our bad example with all the placeholders and the uncertainties and just getting it out there, okay? We're underwriting intentionally. We know that we need to fill it in. And then here's the better, not great, but better example. I'm gonna read it out loud because it's kind of cute. Mavis Larmar, I spelled that wrong, it was supposed to be Lamar, played with her glasses and tucked a stray strand of blonde hair behind her ear. She stood in front of the cellular news, waiting for her ride to the space station that spun in orbit around the moon. Her book club friend, Nova, came to stand beside her, next to her, whatever. What's up? I just found this island with trees and everything. I really want to buy it, but it costs 10 million space quarters. I don't know why. But Mavis, Nova said, you need to find money for rent first. Plus, what about Estelle? Oops, formatting. Mavis nodded. Her cat Estelle needed to come to the island too. So that's a little paragraph example of underwriting badly, not badly, but just your first draft and making it better. Let me know what you guys think of that. I hope you guys liked this video about underwriting. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want more videos from me in the future. And definitely check out the other videos below if you missed them, because I talk about words to cut and overwriting. And I think that it's really fun to chat about editing like this. So if you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments, and let me know if there are other editing style videos you want me to talk about. But I have 1,000,001 video ideas, you guys, so if you want to actually have like a say in the videos that I choose, check out my Patreon page for the video club. I like to share polls with the video club where I show them my video ideas and I let them choose which ones they most want. And so that's been really fun and exciting, and that's just one of the many cool things on Patreon. So if you want to check it out, I will link that below as well. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you have an amazing day. Penny was supposed to be a cute backdrop. I know, huffy huffy. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you have an amazing day. Good luck with your editing, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!